This is a book about the quiet power of choosing one thing. For years, I cycled through new interests like outfits in a fitting room, trying on, discarding, and rarely wearing any long enough to see who I might become if I stayed. I convinced myself that freedom meant keeping my options open, that progress would come from dabbling widely and waiting for inspiration to strike. It didn't. The only thing that grew was my museum of half-finished projects and the subtle ache of potential left unused. You are holding this book because you recognize some part of yourself in that story. Maybe you felt the friction of scattered effort, the weight of too many open tabs, skills started, hobbies abandoned, ambitions postponed until someday. Maybe you are tired of the empty busyness of preparation and the illusion of motion that comes from endless research, shopping for the perfect tool, or designing the perfect plan. This book is an invitation to choose, not forever, just for 30 days, to pick a single hobby, a single transformative practice, and carry it long enough to gather the evidence that you are capable of more than dabbling. Because the only way to change your identity is through action, and the only way to build proof is through repetition. What follows is not a theory, but a manual for choice-centered growth. Each chapter introduces a keystone hobby: journaling, chess, public speaking, practical reading, skill building, publishing, and deliberate practice. These are not just hobbies. They are vehicles for compounding your confidence, your competence, and your leverage in the world. Each is broken down into actionable protocols, frictionless routines, and feedback systems designed for real life, bad days included. The rules here are simple. Pick one practice. Make your commitment almost laughably small. Track your progress, not your perfection. When you miss, you adapt, not abandon. When you plateau, you adjust the system, not your self-worth. And above all, you trust the process long enough for it to change you. If you've ever wondered why your calendar is full but your progress is flat, why effort expended rarely equals results earned, this book will show you how to convert scattered energy into deep wells of mastery. You will see why the greatest transformation comes not from adding more to your plate, but from subtracting the non-essential and doubling down on what matters most. This is not a book for the naturally disciplined or the already successful. It is a book for those who have started and stopped, for those who have felt the drift of passive aging and the fatigue of context switching. It is for those ready to trade novelty for mastery, and for anyone who suspects that focus is the last real superpower. The moment you pick one, your transformation begins. Let this book be the last thing you start and the first thing you finish. Turn the page, choose your well, dig deep. The water is waiting. Chapter 1, Choose One. Everything you know about keeping your options open might be the very thing holding you back. We live in an era that worships the generalist and praises the person who dabbles in everything. We are told to explore, to sample, to keep our eyes on the horizon for the next big thing. But look closely at your own life over the last 3 years. Look at the half-finished projects, the books read to chapter 3, the instruments gathering dust, and the skills that never quite reached a professional level. This is not freedom. This is a trap. You are reading this because you feel the friction of scattered effort. You are busy. Your days are full. You expend massive amounts of energy, yet when you look back at the timeline of your progress, it looks flat. You are digging 10 holes that are 1 foot deep, while the person next to you dug one well that is 10 feet deep and struck water. This chapter is your permission to stop digging shallow holes. It is time to make a sharp turn from scattered effort to a single, compounding practice. You're going to pick one thing, and you're going to let it change everything else. The illusion of motion. The greatest enemy of progress is not laziness. It is the illusion of motion. You feel like you are moving forward because you are constantly planning, researching, and preparing. You buy the gear. You download the apps. You watch the tutorials. These actions feel like work, but they are merely preparation. They are safe because they carry no risk of failure. You cannot fail at researching a hobby. You can only fail at doing it. This state of constant preparation creates a phenomenon known as decision debt. Every time you delay choosing a specific path because you are waiting for the perfect time or the perfect passion, you are accruing interest on that delay. The cost of starting grows with every week you spend analyzing. You tell yourself you are being careful, but you are actually being fearful. You are suffering from context switching, where your brain frantically jumps between different goals: get fit, learn Spanish, code an app, write a novel, and as a result, nothing compounds. When you split your attention 5 ways, you do not get 20% of the results in each area. You get 0 results. Complexity kills execution. The energy required to switch contexts depletes the energy required to do the work. This is why you end your days feeling exhausted but unaccomplished. You were busy, but you were not effective. You were reactive, responding to the noise of many potential futures rather than directing your energy toward one concrete reality. The silent threat of passive aging. There is a darker reality to this lack of focus. Time is not neutral. While you are hesitating, deciding, and dabbling, the clock is running. This is the concept of passive aging. You are getting older automatically, but you are not getting better automatically. Skill does not accrue just because you survived another year. Without a directed force, your identity defaults to comfort. If you do not intervene, you will drift. Drift is the natural state of the universe. It is entropy applied to your potential. The danger is that you will wake up in 5 years having collected a museum of starts, but no finishes. You will have no proof of your capabilities, no leverage in the marketplace, and no portfolio of completed work. You will be the person who used to play guitar or started learning Python once. This leads to chronic restart syndrome. Every time you abandon a pursuit because it got difficult or boring, you train your brain to quit. You build a neural pathway that says, when friction arrives, I leave. Then, when you start the next thing, you are not starting from experience. You are starting from 0, carrying the baggage of your last quit. You begin to distrust your own plans. You stop believing your own promises. This is why plateau becomes an identity. You start telling yourself, I'm just not the kind of person who finishes things. That story hardens into concrete, and eventually, it becomes true. Identity follows evidence. We often try to solve this problem backward. We think we need to feel like a disciplined person before we can act like one. We wait for a surge of motivation to change our identity. But psychology tells us the opposite is true. Identity follows evidence. You cannot think your way into a new way of acting, but you can act your way into a new way of thinking. This is the mechanism of single pursuit identity formation. When you commit to one specific hobby and you do it every single day, regardless of how you feel, you send a signal to your brain. You are providing evidence that you are a finisher. You are proving that you are reliable. When you focus on just one thing, you concentrate those signals. The noise fades and the signal becomes undeniable. By picking one transformative hobby, you are not just learning a skill, you are building a scaffold for your self-trust. When you see yourself show up for journal mastery or chess thinking for 30 days straight, your identity shifts. You stop being a dabbler. You become a practitioner. This shift is durable. Once you prove to yourself that you can stick to one thing, the fear of harder goals shrinks. Your default day improves without you needing to summon heroic willpower. You simply do what you do because of who you are. The art of the keystone choice. So how do you break the paralysis? You choose, and you choose now. You are going to adopt a stance of choice-centered growth. You will select one keystone hobby to carry for the next 30 days. This is a time-boxed experiment. It is not a life sentence. It is a test. You must reject the shiny objects that promise instant gratification. You are looking for a hobby that meets 3 specific criteria: leverage, joy, and proof. Leverage means the skill helps you in other domains of your life. Speak power helps you in meetings and negotiations. Read to apply helps you solve problems faster. Joy means you have enough natural interest to survive the boredom of the plateau. Proof means the hobby produces visible output: a journal entry, a recorded speech, a code commit, a published post. Do not worry about picking the wrong one. The only wrong choice is no choice. The act of choosing is more important than the choice itself, because it breaks the cycle of hesitation. This is decision velocity. Successful people make decisions quickly and change them slowly. Unsuccessful people make decisions slowly and change them quickly. Be the former. Pick one from the menu of this book. Whether it is build a skill or publish publicly, lock it in. This is your vehicle for the next month. Designing your minimum viable commitment. Once you have picked your vehicle, you need to turn the key. Most people fail here because they rely on motivation. They wait for inspiration to strike. But motivation is a fair-weather friend. It will abandon you when you are tired, stressed, or busy. You need a system that works when you are at your worst. This requires a minimum viable commitment, MVC. You are not going to commit to 3 hours a day. You are going to commit to 15 minutes. You are going to set a bar so low that you would feel foolish missing it. This utilizes the start now bias to overcome the inertia of the present moment. The hardest part of any habit is the first 2 minutes. By shrinking the commitment, you remove the mental friction of starting. You will use implementation intentions to automate this. This is a simple if-then algorithm for your brain. If it is 7 a.m., then I will open my journal. If I pour my morning coffee, then I will solve one chess puzzle. You strip the decision-making power away from your future self, who might be lazy or tired, and you make the decision now while you are rational and ambitious. You are preloading the discipline so you don't have to find it in the moment. The feedback architecture. Action without direction is just wasted energy. To ensure your new hobby actually transforms you, you must install a feedback loop. This is the engine of improvement. Do, measure, adjust. Most people operate on vague feelings. They feel like they are getting better or worse. You will operate on data. You will track one lead metric and one lag metric. A lead metric is something you control, like minutes spent practicing. A lag metric is the result, like pages written or puzzles solved. Every 7 days, you will review this data. This is not a judgment session. It is a scientific review. If you miss 3 days, do not beat yourself up. Ask why. Was the time slot wrong? Was the friction too high? Then adjust. Winners view failure as data. Losers view failure as a character flaw. By installing this loop, you convert tiny daily wins into exponential self-trust. You stop guessing and start knowing. The winner's stance. Ultimately, this comes down to attitude. There is a distinct difference between the attitude of a winner and the attitude of a loser in the game of self-improvement. Losers wait. They wait for the perfect notebook. They wait for the new year. They wait until work calms down. They confuse planning with progress, spending weeks designing the perfect routine, but never executing a single rep. When they hit a wall, they crumble and look for a new, easier path. They chase novelty, addicted to the dopamine of the start, but allergic to the grit of the middle. Winners move. They commit to something small and execute it daily. They do not care if it is messy. They do not care if they are bad at it initially. They understand that you cannot optimize a habit that does not exist. They track their progress, they review their mistakes without drama, and they fix their approach on the fly. They understand that consistency beats intensity every single time. They know that a B- plan executed today is infinitely better than an A+ plan executed next month. You are now standing at the edge of a decision. You can close this book and go back to the comfortable drift of your old life, letting time erode your potential day by day. Or you can decide that today is the day you stop drifting. You can pick one thing. You can make it small. You can lock it in. The path forward is not about adding more to your plate. It is about clearing the table until only the essential remains. It starts with a simple, almost trivial action, but it leads to a profound shift in who you are. The first step involves a tool you likely already possess, yet rarely use to its full potential. It requires only 10 minutes, a pen, and the willingness to face your own thoughts. It is the cockpit of your life, the place where the noise stops and the strategy begins. But to use it, you must learn to write not for history, but for clarity. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Grow to the Top and activate notifications to receive more self-improvement tips that will supercharge your growth. And make sure to give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps the channel grow. Thank you for your support. Chapter 2, Journal Mastery. Stop treating your thoughts like precious artifacts that must be preserved in a museum. Most people approach writing down their thoughts with a strange mix of reverence and hesitation. They buy a leather-bound book, wait for a profound moment of inspiration, and then write 3 pages of emotional rambling about how their day went. Then they put the book on a shelf and never look at it again. This is not a tool. This is a graveyard for your feelings. If you want to move from scattered effort to focused impact, you need to stop keeping a diary and start running a cockpit. Imagine trying to fly a fighter jet without instruments. You are relying entirely on how you feel in the moment. If you feel fast, you assume you are fast. If you feel safe, you assume you are safe. This is how most people run their lives. They navigate based on internal weather rather than external data. You're going to change that today. You are going to install a steering wheel. This chapter is about journal mastery, but not in the way you have likely heard it described by lifestyle bloggers. We are not here to manifest destiny or complain about the weather. We are here to clear mental noise, decide faster, and spot the patterns that are secretly sabotaging your progress. You are about to turn 10 quiet minutes into the most profitable part of your day. Clearing the RAM. Your brain is a magnificent processing unit, but it is a terrible hard drive. Cognitive science tells us that working memory, the mental RAM you use to hold ideas while you manipulate them, is extremely limited. When you try to hold your to-do list, your anxieties, your brilliant ideas, and your grocery list in your head all at once, you are running at maximum capacity. You have no processing power left for actual decision-making. This is why you feel overwhelmed even when you haven't done anything yet. The sheer effort of remembering what you need to do burns the energy you need to actually do it. Writing externalizes this load. When you put a thought on paper, you are offloading it from your brain's RAM to a physical storage device. Suddenly, the machine runs faster. You have space to think. But the benefits go deeper than just feeling lighter. When thoughts stay in your head, they remain vague and fluid. They can hide contradictions. You can believe 2 opposite things at once, as long as they remain unspoken. But the moment you write them down, they become static. You can look at them. You can critique them. You can see that the fear you have been carrying around for 3 days looks ridiculous when reduced to a single sentence in blue ink. This is the power of metacognition, thinking about your thinking. It allows you to step outside the storm of your own mind and view it as a mechanic views an engine. The cockpit, not the diary. To understand what we are building, look at the masters of the past. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations for an audience. He wrote them to govern himself. He used the page to argue with his own impulses, to straighten out his logic, and to remind himself of his principles. Leonardo da Vinci used his notebooks not just to draw, but to think. His pages are a chaotic mix of sketches, questions, and observations. He was turning his days into data. Your journal is your decision cockpit. It is where you capture the loops of your life. A loop consists of a plan, an action, and a result. Most people do the action, but they skip the plan and they ignore the result. They just keep pedaling. By using a journal, you force yourself to close the loop. You state what you intend to do, you go do it, and then you come back and report on what happened. This creates a feedback loop architecture. Over time, these entries become receipts. They are proof of progress. When motivation dips and you feel like you're getting nowhere, you can flip back 10 pages and see exactly where you were a month ago. You see the compounding wins. You see that the problem which seemed insurmountable last Tuesday is now solved. This converts your confidence from a feeling into a fact. You stop hoping you are good. You have evidence that you are effective. Shattering the myths. Before we build the system, we need to demolish the excuses. The biggest barrier to this habit is the lie that it takes too long. You might think you need 30 minutes of quiet solitude and a cup of tea to journal properly. This is false. If you are spending more than 10 minutes a day on this, you are probably doing it wrong. We are aiming for density, not volume. The second myth is that journaling is only for emotional people. You might think this is about exploring your feelings or venting about your relationships. While you can certainly do that, the primary function of journal mastery is strategic. It is for logistics. It is for analyzing why you procrastinated on that project or why you keep agreeing to meetings that waste your time. It is a tool for logic used to sharpen your execution. The third myth is the pressure of the blank page. You think you need to write prose. You think you need to write full paragraphs with proper grammar. Forget that. Bullet points are superior to paragraphs because they force you to be concise. 3 bullets beat 3 pages of rambling every time. We are looking for the signal, not the noise. The 3x2 protocol. Here is the system. It is simple, rigid, and effective. We call it the 3x2 protocol because it involves 3 bullet points twice a day. It requires no creativity, only honesty. In the morning, before the chaos of the world invades your phone, you open your notebook. You write 3 lines. The first line is one clear outcome you must achieve today. Not a to-do list of 10 things, but the one thing that makes the day a win. The second line is one fear or distraction that might get in the way. Name it. By naming it, you strip it of its power. The third line is one action you will take to overcome that obstacle. That is it. You close the book. You have just set the coordinates for your day. In the evening, you return to the cockpit for the debrief. You write 3 more lines. The first line is the result. Did you hit the outcome? Be binary, yes or no. The second line is the lesson. If you missed, why? If you hit it, what worked? The third line is the next step. What is the immediate move for tomorrow morning? This closes the loop. You are not carrying today's stress into tomorrow's potential. You have processed the data and stored it. To make this stick, you need an implementation intention. This is a trigger that automates the behavior. If I sit down at my desk with my coffee, then I will open my notebook. If I brush my teeth at night, then I will write my evening bullets. You chain the new habit to an old one. Frictionless engineering. The goal is to lower the barrier to entry until it is harder not to do it than to do it. Keep your pen and pad visible at your workstation. Do not hide them in a drawer. If you have to search for a pen, you have already lost the battle against friction. Visual cues trigger action. Stick to a single notebook. Do not have a work journal, a personal journal, and a dream journal. That is context switching, and as we discussed in the previous chapter, context switching kills depth. Everything goes in one place. Your life is not compartmentalized, and your thinking shouldn't be either. Use pattern tags to make your reviews faster. When you write a lesson, put a simple symbol next to it. Maybe a star for a win, a triangle for a mistake, and a circle for an idea. This allows you to scan weeks of data in seconds. You are building a database of your own behavior. The compound effect. When you first start, the benefits will be subtle. After 21 days, you will notice a quiet clarity. You will stop ruminating on decisions because you know you will process them in the morning. You will feel lighter. After 60 days, the magic of the feedback loop kicks in. You will start to see the patterns. You will realize that every time you sleep poorly, you make bad decisions on Tuesday afternoons. You will notice that you work twice as fast when you outline first. These insights are gold. They allow you to upgrade your rules. You stop making the same mistakes because you are finally paying attention to them. After 6 months, this notebook becomes a personal playbook. You have a record of what works for you and what doesn't. You are no longer guessing how to be productive. You have a manual written by the only person who truly knows your brain. Troubleshooting the system. Even with a simple system, you will drift. The most common trap is turning the decision cockpit into a complaint box. You start writing about how annoying your boss is or how unfair the traffic was. This is venting. Venting feels good for a moment, but it solves nothing. If you catch yourself whining, stop. Force yourself back to the bullet points. Convert the complaint into a problem and the problem into an action. You will miss days. This is inevitable. The perfectionist in you will want to quit because you broke the streak. Do not let him. If you miss a day, the rule is simple. Write one sentence now, just one. I missed yesterday because I was disorganized. That counts. You have maintained the identity of a writer. Sometimes your entries will feel bland. You will write the same things over and over. This is a signal. It means you are stagnating. To fix this, add a specific question to your daily review. What is one thing I should cut from my life? Or, what is one thing I should double down on? Provoke yourself. From hindsight to foresight. You now have a tool that helps you learn from the past and navigate the present. You are clearing the mental clutter and building a feedback loop that compounds your wisdom. But looking backward and managing the present is only half the equation. To truly transform, you need to learn how to look forward. Life is a series of trade-offs. Every choice you make kills 1,000 other possibilities. The journal helps you see what you did, but it doesn't necessarily teach you how to outmaneuver a complex opponent or how to see the consequences of a move before you make it. You have cleared the noise, now you need to learn how to fight. There is a way to train your brain to see the future, to calculate risk without getting burned, and to understand the brutal economics of sacrifice. It requires a board, a set of pieces, and a willingness to lose until you learn how to win. The next step isn't about writing it down, it's about playing it out. Chapter 3, Chess Thinking. There is a specific type of pain that comes from realizing you have made a mistake exactly 1 second after it's too late to fix it. You send the email to the wrong client. You agree to a deadline you cannot possibly meet. You make a sarcastic comment that lands with a thud and ruins the vibe of the meeting. In that split second, you see the future clearly. You see the consequences unfolding, the awkward conversations, the lost trust, and the frantic damage control. You wish you could reach out, grab time by the tail, and pull it back just 10 seconds, but you cannot. The piece has been moved. The hand has left the board. Most people live their lives reacting to these moments. They move through their days on autopilot, making decisions based on immediate impulses or vague intuition. They are playing a game of chance, hoping that things will work out, and they are constantly surprised when they don't. They lack the ability to see around corners. They lack the mental muscle to calculate the cost of an action before the bill comes due. This chapter is about installing a simulator for those high-stakes moments. We're going to take the chaos of the real world, strip away the noise, and compress it onto a grid of 64 squares. We are not here to turn you into a grandmaster who memorizes encyclopedias of opening theory. We are here to train a specific cognitive capability called chess thinking. This is a method of training foresight, patience, and trade-off judgment in a low-stakes environment so that when the high-stakes reality arrives, you are the only person in the room who has already played the movie forward. The brutal mirror. The reason we choose a structured board game like chess or Steeply, go for this hobby is not because it is intellectual or fancy. We choose it because it is brutally honest. In the real world, feedback is often delayed or noisy. If you are bad at your job, you might not get fired for 2 years. If you are a bad listener, your partner might not leave you for a decade. You can delude yourself for a very long time. The board does not allow delusion. If you make a bad move, you are punished immediately. If you leave a piece undefended, it gets taken. There is no luck to blame. There is no referee to argue with. There is only your decision and its consequence. This creates a feedback loop that is terrifyingly fast and incredibly effective. It forces you to confront your own inadequacy. This is why many people avoid these games. They hate the feeling of being outsmarted by a piece of plastic. But you are going to lean into that feeling. You are going to use the board as a laboratory. Every time you lose a game, you are not losing status, you are gaining data. You are learning exactly where your thinking was flawed. Did you get greedy? Did you lose focus? Did you fail to see what your opponent was planning? The board is a mirror that reflects your decision-making process back to you without a filter. Foresight beats force. The core skill you're building here is second-order thinking. First-order thinking is simple. I am hungry, so I eat. I see a pawn, so I take it. It is immediate and reactive. Second-order thinking asks, and then what? If I take that pawn, I open up my king. If I open up my king, I get checkmated in 3 moves. Therefore, taking the pawn is a trap. In life, the person with the most force often loses to the person with the most foresight. Calm calculation wins in messy moments. When you practice chess thinking, you are training your brain to delay gratification. You learn that grabbing the immediate reward often leads to a long-term loss. You learn to tolerate the tension of a complex position without needing to resolve it immediately. This rewires how you approach trade-offs. In the game, you often have to sacrifice a knight to save a queen or give up space to gain time. You learn that you cannot have everything. You must choose what to lose. When you practice this 3 times a week on the board, the concept of opportunity cost moves from an abstract economic theory to a visceral reflex. You start applying it to your calendar. You realize that saying yes to a coffee meeting is sacrificing a night's worth of deep work. You stop giving away your pieces for free. The laboratory of the mind. You might be thinking that you don't have time to study complex games or that you aren't gifted at strategy. These are myths. Strategy is not a gift. It is a pattern recognition engine that you build brick by brick. You do not need to play 4-hour tournament games to get the benefit. In fact, for our purposes, short, rapid games are superior because they increase the number of reps. We're going to focus on a specific rhythm: rapid games plus postmortems. Playing without analyzing is just gambling. It reinforces bad habits. The growth happens in the 5 minutes after the game ends. This is where you look at the wreckage and ask, what happened? Think of the great archetypes of the game not as history lessons, but as mental models. You have the Garry Kasparov style, intense preparation and strategic aggression. He wins because he has done the work before the game started. You have the Magnus Carlsen style, relentless pressure and patience. He is willing to grind out a small advantage for 50 moves until his opponent cracks. You have the Judith Polgar style, tactical sharpness and fearless development. She creates chaos where she can thrive. You will find your own style, but only if you commit to the review process. The 3x15 protocol. Here is your operating system for this hobby. We call it the 3x15 protocol. It is designed to fit into a busy life while providing maximum cognitive load. You will schedule 3 sessions per week, 15 minutes each. That is 45 minutes a week. Everyone has this time. During these 15 minutes, you will play 1 rapid game, for example, 10 minutes per side, or solve a specific set of tactical puzzles. But the playing is only half the session. Immediately after the game, you must log 3 blunders and 1 fix. You will look at the moment the game turned against you. Did you miss a check? Did you move too fast? You write this down. Then you identify the next position. You find a puzzle or a scenario from that game that you couldn't solve, and you save it to solve tomorrow. This keeps your brain working on the problem even when you aren't playing. Once a week, you will do a 20-minute deep dive on one theme. Maybe this week is pins, where a piece cannot move because it exposes a more valuable piece behind it. Maybe it is endgames. You study this one concept, and then you look for it everywhere. Visualization and the blindfold. To truly upgrade your mind, you need to push beyond moving pieces with your hands. You need to move them with your mind. On Sundays, try to replay 2 critical positions from your week's games in your head with your eyes closed. This is the beginning of blindfold visualization. It sounds impossible, but it is just like remembering a route to the grocery store. You are building a mental map. When you can hold a position in your head and manipulate it without looking at the board, you are expanding your working memory. You are increasing the RAM of your brain. This directly transfers to non-game situations. It helps you hold complex arguments in your head during a negotiation or visualize the flow of a project before you write a single line of code. Managing the clock. One of the most valuable lessons from this hobby is time pressure discipline. In a rapid game, the clock is ticking. If you run out of time, you lose, even if you have a winning position. This teaches you that a perfect decision made too late is a bad decision. You will develop a thinking cue to keep you grounded when the clock is running down. A common one is checks, captures, threats. Before you move, you scan for these three things. It forces you to be systematic when your adrenaline is spiking. You also learn to reserve time. You don't spend 5 minutes on move 3. You save your time for the critical moment in the middle game. This is a direct metaphor for project management. Most people waste their time, their clock, on the early, easy parts of a project, the opening, and then have to rush the complex, critical conclusion, the endgame. Chess thinking teaches you to pace your effort. The blunder log. The most humbling and effective tool in this chapter is the blunder log. You are going to categorize your mistakes. You will find that you don't make new mistakes. You make the same 3 mistakes over and over again. Maybe you have a loose piece problem where you constantly leave things undefended. Maybe you have a tunnel vision problem where you get so focused on your attack that you forget your opponent can attack you back. By naming the error type, you can fix it. You track the frequency. When you see that 50% of your losses come from time trouble, you know exactly what to fix. You stop trying to get better at chess and start trying to get better at time management. From tilt to resilience. There will be days when you lose 3 games in a row. You will feel a surge of anger and frustration. In gaming, this is called tilt. Your emotions have hijacked your logic, and you start playing aggressively and stupidly to try and win back your dignity. This is a dangerous state, and learning to recognize it is a superpower. When you feel tilt coming on, you must stop. The fix is a 5-minute walk. You must physically reset your state. You review only the first mistake of the first game, and you ignore the rest. This teaches you emotional regulation. You learn that you cannot perform when you are angry. The transfer to life. After 12 sessions, you will notice a change at work. You will make fewer rushed decisions. When someone demands an answer immediately, you will feel comfortable pausing. You will see the board. You will look for the check, the capture, and the threat. After 8 weeks, your planning horizons will extend. You will start seeing the second-order effects of your choices. You will realize that skipping the gym today, move 1, leads to lower energy tomorrow, move 2, which leads to a poor presentation, move 3. After 6 months, trade-off thinking becomes instinctive. You won't have to agonize over decisions. You will see the position, calculate the exchange, and move. You will be calmer under pressure because you have exposed yourself to microdoses of stress 3 times a week. You have inoculated yourself against panic. You have now cleared your mind with the journal and sharpened your strategic foresight with chess thinking. You know what you want, and you know the moves required to get there. But there is a gap between seeing the winning move and actually making it happen in the real world. In the game, you move a piece, and it obeys you instantly. In life, you have to move people. And people do not obey physics. They obey something else entirely. To move them, you need a weapon that is older than writing and more powerful than strategy. You need to open your mouth. Chapter 4, Speak Power. You can have the most brilliant strategy in the world mapped out on a chessboard in your mind. You can have the clarity of a Stoic philosopher, captured perfectly in your morning journal. But none of that matters if you open your mouth and nobody listens. There is a silent tragedy that happens in meeting rooms and video calls every single day. A smart, capable person has the right answer. They see the solution that everyone else is missing. They wait for a pause in the conversation, their heart rate spikes, and they finally speak. But instead of a sharp, piercing insight, what comes out is a muddled stream of consciousness. They ramble, they hedge, they dilute their own point with ums and sort ofs and I think maybe. The room politely nods, ignores them, and moves on to the loud guy who is wrong but sounds confident. This is not a fairness problem, it is a physics problem. In the physics of social dynamics, clarity is mass. The clearer you are, the more gravity you have. The more gravity you have, the more you pull people, resources, and opportunities into your orbit. We often treat speaking as a fixed trait, like height or eye color. We say, she's a natural leader, or he's just quiet. This is a lie. Speaking is not a personality type. It is a mechanical skill. It is a hobby you can practice in your living room. And of all the hobbies in this book, this one has the highest immediate return on investment. It is a force multiplier. If your skills are a 10, but your communication is a 0, your total value is 0. If your skills are a 5, but your communication is a 10, you will run the place. The currency of trust. When we talk about speak power, we are not talking about becoming a motivational speaker. We are not talking about standing on a stage with a headset microphone, pacing back and forth, and getting a standing ovation. That is theater. We are interested in authority. Authority comes from the perception of competence. When you speak clearly, concisely, and without filler, you signal to the primal part of other people's brains that you are in control. Leaders trust people who can explain complex things simply. If you can distill a messy situation into 3 clear bullet points, you are no longer just an employee or a student. You are a guide. Consider Warren Buffett. He is known as the greatest investor of all time, a man who deals in numbers and balance sheets. Yet, in his office, you won't find his college diploma hanging on the wall. You will find a certificate from a Dale Carnegie public speaking course. He realized early on that his brain was useless if he couldn't transmit its contents to others. He credits that single skill with changing the trajectory of his life. Steve Jobs did not just build good computers, he built good stories. He understood that the technology was secondary to the narrative. Brené Brown took dry academic research on shame and vulnerability, topics that usually put people to sleep, and turned them into a global conversation because she mastered the art of clear human delivery. These people were not born with a microphone in their hand. They built the skill, rep by rep. The weekly micro talk. So, how do you turn this into a hobby? You are not going to join a debate club, and you are not going to Toastmasters, at least not yet. You are going to start much smaller. You are going to practice the art of the micro talk. The strategy is simple. Once a week, you will record a 90-second explanation of one idea. That is it. You will take a concept you are working on, a problem you solved, or an idea you read about, and you will explain it to the camera on your phone. This sounds easy until you try it. The first time you do this, you will be horrified. You will realize that you say every 4 seconds. You will notice that you look away from the camera when you are thinking. You will hear your voice trail off at the end of sentences, turning statements into questions. This is painful, but it is the good kind of pain. It is the pain of the feedback loop closing. Most people go their entire lives without ever hearing themselves the way the world hears them. They live in the echo chamber of their own skull, where their voice sounds deep and their logic sounds flawless. The camera is the only honest friend you have. It reveals the gap between who you think you are and who you actually are. Your goal in this hobby is to close that gap. Structure beats scripting. The biggest mistake people make when they try to improve their speaking is that they try to become actors. They write out a script, word for word, and try to memorize it. This is a disaster. When you memorize a script, you stop thinking and start reciting. If you forget one word, the whole house of cards collapses and you freeze. True power comes from structure, not scripts. You're going to learn to think in blocks. For your weekly micro talk, you will use a simple 3-part framework: problem, insight, action. First, state the problem. What is broken? What is the pain point? Keep it to 1 sentence. Second, share the insight. What is the solution? What did you discover? Finally, call for action. What should happen next? This structure is a safety net. You don't need to memorize the words. You only need to know the 3 blocks. If you get lost in the middle of a sentence, you just ask yourself, am I in the problem, the insight, or the action? And you find your way back. This prevents the deadly ramble. It forces you to be linear. It forces you to respect the listener's time. The physiology of presence. Nerves are not a sign of weakness. They are a biological response to a perceived threat. Your body thinks that speaking up in a meeting is the same as facing a predator on the savannah. Your heart races, your breath gets shallow, and your brain shuts down non-essential functions, like your vocabulary. You cannot think your way out of a physiological reaction. You have to breathe your way out. Before you hit record on your phone, and eventually before you speak in a meeting, you will use the 4-4-4 breathing technique. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds. This sends a manual override signal to your nervous system. It tells your body, we are safe, we are not being hunted. Once you are calm, you need to master your instrument. Your voice is a tool, and most people use it like a blunt object. They speak in a monotone drone that hypnotizes people into boredom. You will practice the high-low hold technique. When you want to emphasize a point, you go slightly higher in pitch and speed up. Then, when you hit the most important word, the core claim, you drop your pitch, slow down, and hold the silence for a beat. That silence is the loudest thing in the room. It forces people to lean in. It signals that you are comfortable enough to take up time. The feedback loop. Here is your weekly cadence. It takes less than 15 minutes, but it will do more for your career than a year of hard work in the shadows. Step 1. Outline your 3 bullets: problem, insight, action. Say them out loud twice. Do not write a script. Step 2. Hit record on your phone. Deliver your 90-second talk. Imagine you are speaking to one specific person, a smart friend or a colleague. Step 3. Watch the video. This is the hardest part. Do not judge your appearance. Judge your delivery. Pick one single thing to fix. Did you say like too much? Did you look bored? Step 4. Record it one more time with that fix in mind. Step 5. Delete the videos. You don't need to post them. The value is in the rep, not the archive. Eventually, you will take this live. You will use a low-stakes setting, like a daily stand-up meeting or a casual update, to test your new skills. You will use the structure. You will breathe. You will deliver. And you will notice something shift. People will stop checking their phones. They will look at you. And when you finish, there will be fewer questions because you actually answered them before they were asked. Guardrails against the ramble. The enemy of power is the ramble. We ramble because we are insecure. We think that if we keep talking, we will eventually stumble upon the right answer. Or we think that if we stop talking, someone will interrupt us and take the floor. You need to install guardrails. The first guardrail is the time box. 90 seconds is an eternity if you are clear, and a split second if you are interesting. Force yourself to hit the mark. If you can't explain it in 90 seconds, you don't understand it well enough. The second guardrail is the silence replacement. We use filler words like and ah to hold the floor while we think. We are terrified of dead air. You must retrain your brain to realize that silence is a power move. When you need to think, just shut your mouth. Pause. Look at the audience. It feels like an hour to you, but to them, it looks like you are thoughtful and confident. Replace the with a pause. The compound effect of clarity. If you stick to this for 4 weeks, you will see your updates become cleaner. You will spend less time clarifying what you meant in follow-up emails. If you stick to this for 12 weeks, you will start to be seen as a leader. Leadership is largely linguistic. The person who can articulate the reality of the situation and propose a path forward is the person people naturally follow. You will get invited to meetings where decisions are made, simply because you help the room think better. If you stick to this for 6 months, you will have a new identity. You will no longer be the person who has good ideas but can't sell them. You will be the person who can move a room. You will have the ability to negotiate for what you want, to pitch projects that matter to you, and to defend your boundaries with grace. The raw material. You have now built a formidable engine. You have the journal to clear your mind and generate insights. You have chess thinking to calculate strategy and see the future. You have speak power to articulate your vision and mobilize others. But an engine needs fuel. You can be the most articulate speaker in the world, but if you don't have high-quality ideas, you are just a polished, empty shell. You need a constant intake of new information, new models, and new perspectives to feed your decision-making process. Most people try to solve this by consuming everything in sight. They doom scroll, They hoard books they never read, and they listen to podcasts at double speed, terrified of missing out. They are drowning in noise and starving for wisdom. There is a way to stop hoarding and start hunting. There is a method to strip a book of its value in 30 minutes and turn it into a weapon you can use immediately. You don't need to read more, you need to read differently. You need to stop acting like a librarian and start acting like a thief. Chapter 5, Read to Apply. Walk over to your bookshelf. Look at the rows of spines staring back at you. Now, be honest with yourself. How many of those books have you actually read? And of the ones you have read, how many have actually changed the way you lived your life the next day? For most people, a bookshelf is not a toolbox. It is a trophy case. It is a monument to good intentions and intellectual vanity. We buy books because we want to be the kind of person who reads those books. We buy a biography of a great leader because we hope that by placing it on our nightstand, their discipline will drift into our brains through osmosis while we sleep. We buy books on strategy, productivity, and history, and then we let them gather dust. Or worse, we read them, nod along, feel smarter for a few hours, and then change absolutely nothing about our behavior. This is the collector's fallacy. It is the dangerous belief that collecting information is the same thing as acquiring knowledge. It is not. Information is noise until it is applied. If you read a book on negotiation but you do not negotiate your next salary or your rent, you did not learn anything. You just entertained yourself. You engaged in what looks like work but is actually a sophisticated form of procrastination. You are going to stop being a librarian. A librarian's job is to organize, preserve, and catalog. You are going to become a thief. A thief does not care about the condition of the book or the order of the chapters. A thief cares only about getting in, finding the valuable goods, and getting out before they get caught. This chapter is about shifting your identity from a passive consumer of words to an aggressive extractor of value. The high cost of just-in-case learning. We have been taught since grade school that we should read to be well-rounded. We are told to stock our minds with facts just in case we might need them someday. This is just-in-case learning, and in the modern world, it is a recipe for anxiety and paralysis. The world generates more information in a single day than you could consume in 1,000 lifetimes. If you try to keep up, you will drown. The alternative is just-in-time learning. This is the practice of ignoring everything that does not solve a problem you are facing right now. When you read to apply, you are not reading for general wisdom. You are reading for ammunition. You have a specific enemy, a problem at work, a stall in your project, a gap in your understanding, and you are hunting for the specific weapon that will kill it. This approach allows you to leapfrog experience. A good book is essentially a compression algorithm. An author spends 20 years learning a hard lesson, suffering through failures and dead ends, and then compresses all that pain into 200 pages. You can buy those 20 years for $20, but this transaction only works if you extract the lesson and execute it. If you don't, you are just looking at a map of a place you will never visit. The funnel of extraction. To make this shift, you need to abandon the sacred view of books. You do not owe the author your time. You do not need to read from page 1 to page 300. You do not need to finish a book that is boring or irrelevant. You are going to build a results-first reading funnel. It starts with the skim. When you pick up a book, you are not committing to marriage. You are speed dating. Look at the table of contents. Read the index. Read the back cover. Your goal is to triage. Ask yourself a ruthless question. Does this book solve a problem I have right now? If the answer is no, put it down. Put it in your anti-library, a list of books you know about but haven't read yet. They are there for when you need them, not for now. If the answer is yes, you move to the selection phase. Do not read the whole book. Find the one chapter that addresses your specific pain point. Authors often wrap one brilliant idea in 10 chapters of fluff to justify the price of a hardcover. Your job is to find the diamond and ignore the packaging. Read that one chapter deeply. Mark it up. Fold the corners. Break the spine. Then comes the study phase. This is where you compress the author's insight into your own language. Most people highlight. Highlighting is a trap. It feels like work, but it is usually just coloring. When you highlight a sentence, your brain tells you that you have captured the information, so you can forget it. Instead of highlighting, you must translate. You must look at the insight and rewrite it as a rule. The rule card. This is the core mechanic of this hobby. For every book you engage with, your goal is to produce a single rule card. You can use an index card, a digital note, or your journal from chapter 2. On the front of the card, you write the rule. A rule is not a quote. A quote is passive. A rule is imperative. It tells you what to do. For example, if you are reading a book on negotiation, don't write down the quote. Silence is a powerful tool. That is trivia. Write down the rule. When I state my price, I will remain silent until the other person speaks, no matter how long it takes. On the back of the card, you write the experiment. This is the 48-hour test. Knowledge has a half-life. If you do not use a new idea within 48 hours of finding it, the odds of you ever using it drop to near zero. You must script a tiny, low-stakes experiment to test the rule. I will use the silence rule in my meeting with the contractor on Tuesday. This transforms the book from a static object into a dynamic project. You are no longer reading a book, you are funding an experiment. If a book yields one good rule that you actually use, it has paid for itself 1,000 times over. If a book yields 0 rules, it was a waste of time, no matter how famous the author is. The myth of the polymath. You will face resistance when you start doing this. The first resistance will come from your own ego. You want to be the person who has read the classics. You want to track your reading on an app and show off that you finished 50 books this year. Let's shatter that myth right now. The CEO who claims to read 50 books a year is usually skimming for cocktail party conversation. Reading is not a volume metric, it is a conversion metric. It is better to read one book and implement 5 ideas than to read 50 books and implement nothing. You will also struggle with the urge to be a completionist. You will feel guilty for stopping on page 50. You must realize that the sunk cost fallacy applies to reading just as it applies to finance. The time you spent reading the first 50 pages is gone. If the book is not delivering value, spending 5 more hours on it is just throwing good time after bad. Close it. The most respectful thing you can do to a book is to use it, not to endure it. The retrieval ritual. If you follow this process, you will start generating a stack of rule cards. These are your intellectual assets. But assets are useless if they are locked in a vault. You need a retrieval ritual. Every Friday, spend 10 minutes reviewing your rule cards. Shuffle through them. You will see rules you wrote 3 months ago that you have already forgotten. This is natural. The brain deletes what it does not use. By reviewing the cards, you are performing spaced retrieval. You are reminding your brain, this is important. Keep this. You will also find rules that turned out to be useless. Maybe you tested them and they failed. Maybe they don't fit your style. Throw those cards away. You are curating a personal operating system, not an archive. Keep the set lean. A deck of 20 rules that you live by is more powerful than a library of 1,000 notes you never look at. Troubleshooting the process. There are 2 main ways this process breaks down. The first is the highlighter's coma. You get so engrossed in reading that you slip back into passive consumption. You wake up an hour later having read 50 pages, but you haven't stopped to think or synthesize. To fix this, use a physical bookmark that blocks the text. On the bookmark, write, "Where is the rule?" Move it down the page as you read. It serves as a constant stop sign, forcing you to ask if you have found something actionable. The second breakdown is analysis paralysis. You find a great idea, but you are afraid to test it because you might do it wrong. You think you need to understand the theory perfectly before you try it. This is backward. You learn the theory by doing the practice. Your 48-hour experiment should be imperfect. It should be messy. The goal is not to succeed. The goal is to break the seal on the idea. Once you have used it in the real world, it becomes yours. From theory to leverage. When you read to apply, you change the texture of your mind. You stop being a hoarder of facts and start being a collector of mental models. You begin to see patterns that others miss because you have pre-lived scenarios through the books you have mined. You will find that your decisions become faster. When a crisis hits, you don't panic. You remember a rule you extracted from a biography of a general or a manual on crisis management. You have a playbook while everyone else is improvising. This hobby feeds the others. Your journal becomes the place where you design your experiments. Your chess thinking helps you select which books offer the highest strategic value. Your speak power improves because you are constantly synthesizing complex ideas into simple rules. But there is a limit to reading. You can read every book on swimming ever written. You can understand the hydrodynamics of water, and you can memorize the biographies of every Olympic gold medalist. But the moment you jump into the pool, you will sink if you haven't built the muscle. You have cleared your mind. You have sharpened your strategy. You have found your voice. You have gathered your raw materials. Now it is time to stop consuming the work of others and start creating something of your own. It is time to leave the realm of ideas and enter the realm of artifacts. You need to build something that proves you exist. Chapter 6. Build a skill. Look around the room you are sitting in right now. Look at the chair, the phone in your hand, the app you are reading this on, the light fixture above your head. Every single one of these things was built by someone. The world is divided into two distinct classes of people: the consumers and the builders. The consumers pay to exist in the world. The builders get paid to shape it. Most people spend their entire lives on the consumer side of the glass. They watch Netflix, but they don't edit video. They scroll through Instagram, but they don't understand composition or color theory. They use software to do their jobs, but they have no idea how to write the script that would automate the boring parts. They are spectators in the economy of creation. This chapter is your invitation to smash the glass. You are going to stop just using the world and start manipulating it. We are not talking about a vague desire to learn more. We are talking about acquiring a hard, marketable craft: coding, data analytics, graphic design, video editing, or copywriting, and treating it with the seriousness of a craftsman. This is not about quitting your job tomorrow to become a freelancer. It is about something far more valuable: leverage. The insurance policy of competence. We live in a volatile time. Industries shift overnight. Roles that seemed secure 5 years ago are now being automated or outsourced. If your only value proposition is that you are good at following instructions in a specific corporate environment, you are fragile. You are dependent on the stability of that environment. When you build a skill, you are buying an insurance policy for your career. This is the concept of income resilience. A skill is portable. If you know how to write Python scripts to scrape data, that value belongs to you, not your employer. If you know how to edit high-retention video, that asset travels with you regardless of whether the market goes up or down. Competence attracts opportunity like a magnet. When you are the person who can actually make things, you negotiate from a position of strength, not need. But the shift is internal as much as it is economic. When you start building, you undergo an identity upgrade. You stop seeing yourself as a cog in a machine and start seeing yourself as an engine. There is a profound confidence that comes from looking at a blank screen and knowing you have the ability to fill it with something that works. You become a builder, and builders are never helpless. The trap of tutorial hell. Before we get to the system, we have to address the trap that catches 90% of people who try to learn a new skill. It is called tutorial hell. You decide you want to learn to code. You buy a 40-hour course on Udemy. You watch the videos. You type exactly what the instructor types. You feel good. You feel productive. You finish the course and get a little digital certificate. Then, you open a blank file to build something of your own, and you freeze. You have no idea what to do. You didn't learn to code, you learned to type. You confused consumption with competence. Watching a video about push-ups is not the same as doing push-ups. Collecting certificates is not the same as acquiring skills. The market does not care about your certificates. It does not care how many hours of video you watched. It cares about one thing. Can you ship? To escape this trap, you must adopt a project-first mentality. You are not studying a subject. You are building a portfolio. Real artifacts beat certificates every single time. A jagged, ugly, functional app that you built yourself is worth infinitely more than a polished certificate for a course where you just followed instructions. The 90-day freeze. The second trap is the shiny object syndrome of tools. If you want to learn design, you spend 3 weeks debating whether to use Figma, Adobe XD, or Sketch. If you want to learn to write, you spend a month setting up your Obsidian Vault or your Notion dashboard. This is procrastination disguised as preparation. To build a skill, you must commit to a tool freeze. You pick one domain, one stack, and you lock the doors for 90 days. If you pick Python, you do not look at JavaScript. If you pick Premiere Pro, you do not download DaVinci Resolve. You are going to embrace the Pareto focus. In any skill, 20% of the tools get you 80% of the results. You don't need to know every feature of the software. You need to know the core features well enough to produce output. Mastery is not knowing every button. Mastery is knowing which buttons to ignore so you can get the work done. Sewing. The 3-1-1 cycle. So how do you actually do this without burning out? You're going to use a rhythm called the 3-1-1 cycle. It is designed to balance input, learning, with output, building, and proof showing. The first number is 3. You will schedule 3 focused sessions per week. These should be 45 to 60 minutes long. During these sessions, you are allowed to watch tutorials, read documentation, or study theory, but you are doing it with a specific purpose to solve a problem you are facing in your build. The second number is 1. You will ship one tiny project per week. Note the word tiny. Do not try to build the next Facebook. Build a button that changes color when you click it. Build a script that organizes your desktop folder. Build a graphic for a fake shoe brand. The goal is to finish. A finished project is a closed loop. It teaches you how to start, how to struggle, and how to ship. The third number is 1. You will create one public post per week showing what you built. This is your proof of work. It doesn't have to be a tutorial. It can just be a screenshot or a screen recording. Here is what I tried to build. Here is where I got stuck, and here is how I fixed it. The micro portfolio. Over the course of 90 days, this cycle produces 12 artifacts. This is your micro portfolio. Most people wait until they are experts to build a portfolio. This is a mistake. Your portfolio should not be a museum of your masterpieces. It should be a documentary of your progress. When an employer or a client looks at your work, they want to see your trajectory. They want to see that you can learn. Show the before and after. Explain your decisions. Why did you choose that font? Why did you structure the database that way? The artifact shows what you can do, but the explanation shows how you think. That is what people hire. They hire the thinking process. Constraint power. The biggest enemy of the 3-1 cycle is perfectionism. You will want to keep tweaking your project forever. You will want to add just one more feature. To fight this, you must use constraints. Deadlines are the ultimate constraint. Your project ships on Sunday night. If it is ugly, it ships ugly. If it has bugs, you document the bugs and ship it anyway. The deadline is the boss. You can also use tool constraints. I will design this poster using only black and white. I will edit this video using only hard cuts, no transitions. Constraints force creativity. When you can't rely on flashy effects or unlimited colors, you have to rely on the fundamentals of composition and timing. This is how you build the muscle. Feedback that bites. You cannot learn in a vacuum. You need feedback. But good job is not feedback. It is politeness. You need feedback that bites. When you post your weekly artifact, do not ask, "What do you think?" That is a lazy question that invites lazy answers. Ask specific, pointed questions. I struggled with the hierarchy on this layout. Does the headline feel disconnected? The transition at 0:30 feels jerky. How would you smooth it out? When you ask a specific question, you signal that you are serious. You signal that you are a practitioner looking for critique, not a child looking for praise. And when you get that critique, do not defend yourself. Say thank you, and then go fix it. Keep a bugs and fixes log. This log is the record of your growth. It proves that you are not making the same mistake twice. The keystone effect. You might be thinking, I'm a manager. Why do I need to learn to code? Or I'm in sales. Why do I need to learn design? This brings us back to the keystone hobby principle. One capability lifts many domains. If you learn the logic of coding, your ability to think through complex operational problems improves. You start seeing workflows as algorithms. If you learn design, your sales decks become cleaner and more persuasive. You understand visual hierarchy, so you know how to guide the client's eye to the most important number. You are not just building a skill, you are upgrading your operating system. You are adding a new lens through which you see the world. The more lenses you have, the more accurately you can navigate reality. Troubleshooting the dip. Somewhere around week 4, the novelty will wear off. The tutorials will get harder. Your projects will break in ways you don't understand. You will feel stupid. This is the dip. Most people quit in the dip. They assume that because it is hard, they are not talented enough. They tell themselves the story that talent is fixed, and they just don't have the gene for this. You must reframe this. The frustration you feel is not a sign of failure. It is the sensation of growth. It is the feeling of your brain rewiring itself. If you aren't frustrated, you aren't learning. You are just reviewing what you already know. When you hit a wall, stop digging, step back, use the 10x question. Ask yourself, what is the one change that would make this project 10 times better? Often, the answer is to simplify. Cut the scope. If you can't build the whole app, build the login screen. If you can't edit the whole film, edit the trailer. Keep the momentum moving. From private practice to public leverage. By the end of this chapter, you will have something rare. You will have a stack of finished projects. You will have a skill that is not theoretical, but practical. You will have the confidence that comes from struggling with a problem and defeating it. But right now, these projects are sitting on your hard drive or in a quiet corner of the internet. They are valuable, but they are silent. You have built the engine, but you haven't turned on the ignition. To get the true leverage from your new skill, to turn it into inbound opportunities, job offers, or a side business, you need to do something that feels dangerous. You need to take your private grind and give it public gravity. You need to stop signaling to yourself and start signaling to the tribe. The next step is not about building, it is about broadcasting. And it turns out, the way you share your work is just as important as the work itself. Chapter 7. Publish publicly. There is a dangerous myth that quality speaks for itself. We like to believe that if we work hard in the dark, eventually someone will turn on the lights and reveal our genius to the world. We imagine that our boss, our clients, or the market will telepathically sense our competence and reward us with opportunities. We treat our hard work like a buried treasure, assuming that X marks the spot, and someone is out there with a map looking for us. But nobody is looking for you. Everyone is too busy looking for themselves. You can be the most skilled coder, the most insightful writer, or the most strategic thinker in your industry. But if your work lives entirely on your hard drive, you are functionally invisible. In the modern economy, being good is only half the job. The other half is providing evidence that you are good. You have spent the last few chapters building a formidable internal engine. You have cleared your mind, sharpened your strategy, and built a skill. Now, you must open the garage door. This chapter is about the scariest and most profitable hobby you can adopt. It is the act of turning your private grind into public gravity. It is about creating a paper trail of your competence so that opportunities can find you without you having to chase them. You are going to stop hoarding your ideas and start publishing them. The surface area of luck. Think about luck. Most people view luck as a lightning strike, a random event that you cannot control. But there is a different kind of luck that is mathematically predictable. It is called serendipity, and it scales with surface area. Imagine your career is a target. If you never share your work, your target is the size of a postage stamp. Only the people in your immediate physical vicinity, your boss, your two coworkers, your spouse, can see it. The odds of a life-changing opportunity hitting that tiny target are near zero. When you publish publicly, you expand the target. Every time you share a thought, a project update, or a lesson learned, you are increasing the surface area of your luck. You are putting up a billboard on the highway of the internet. You are allowing people you have never met to discover you, vet you, and trust you while you are asleep. This is not about vanity. It is not about getting likes or becoming an influencer. It is about proof. In a low-trust world, people do not believe your promises, they believe your outputs. A resume is a promise. It is a document that says, I claim I can do these things. A portfolio of published work is proof. It says, here is the evidence that I have already done these things. Proof beats promise every single time. The signal in the noise. The immediate resistance you feel to this idea is likely disgust. You look at social media and you see narcissism. You see people posting photos of their lattes, doing silly dances, or shouting controversial opinions just to get a reaction. You think, I am a serious professional. I do not want to be part of that circus. You are right to reject the circus, but you are wrong to reject the medium. You are not going to post about your breakfast. You are going to post about your process. You are going to adopt the strategy of the ethical signal. The internet is drowning in noise, but it is starving for signal. Signal is anything that is useful, educational, or clarifying. When you share how you solved a specific problem in your code, that is signal. When you explain a negotiation tactic that worked for you, that is signal. When you post a before and after of a design project, that is signal. You are not shouting, look at me. You are saying, look at this. The former is ego, the latter is generosity. When you shift your focus from trying to be famous to trying to be helpful, the fear of judgment evaporates. You are no longer performing, you are teaching. And the byproduct of teaching is that the world perceives you as an expert. The 3-post loop. So what do you actually write? You do not need to write a manifesto. You do not need to write a book. You need to produce small, weekly artifacts. We will use a simple framework called the 3-post loop. You can rotate through these 3 types of content, ensuring you never run out of ideas. The first type is teach. Look at the work you did this week. What was the hardest thing you figured out? Maybe you learned a shortcut in Excel, or a better way to structure a meeting, or a concept from the book you are reading. Take that one lesson and distill it into a short post. I used to struggle with X, then I tried Y. Here is the result. This positions you as a guide. The second type is show. This is the build-in public approach. Take a screenshot of your work in progress. Show the messy first draft. Show the error message you are trying to fix. This humanizes you. It shows that you are in the arena doing the work. People trust the journey more than the destination. The third type is ask. You do not always have to be the expert. Sometimes the smartest way to engage is to ask a question. I am trying to decide between tool A and tool B. What is your experience? This invites people into your world. It turns a monologue into a dialogue. The Tuesday Protocol. The biggest enemy of publishing is decision fatigue. If you wake up every morning asking, should I post today and what should I post? You will eventually answer, no, and I don't know. You will quit within 2 weeks. To survive, you must remove the decision. You need an identity-based constraint. You are going to make a rule. I post every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Why Tuesday? It doesn't matter. It could be Thursday. The point is that it is non-negotiable. It is a deadline. When you have a deadline, you stop trying to be perfect and you start trying to be done. You stop worrying about whether your idea is original enough. A myth, by the way. Nothing is original, and you just ship what you have. You can batch this. On Sunday, spend 20 minutes writing your post for Tuesday. Put it in a scheduler or save it as a draft. Then, when Tuesday comes, you just hit the button. You separate the creation from the distribution. This protects you from the emotional volatility of the work week. The archive asset. Over time, something magical happens. One post is a drop in the bucket, but 50 posts are an archive. Your archive is an asset class. It works for you 24 hours a day. When you apply for a job, you can include a link to your profile. The hiring manager clicks it and sees a year's worth of thoughts, projects, and insights. They see how you think. They see that you are consistent. They see that you can communicate. This creates career gravity. Instead of you chasing opportunities start chasing you. You get a message from someone who saw your post about that specific coding problem. You get invited to a podcast because someone liked your thread on management. You get a consulting offer because you are the only person who has publicly documented how to solve that specific pain point. This is the difference between cold outreach and warm inbound. Cold outreach is begging. Warm inbound is leverage. When they come to you, the dynamic of the relationship is fundamentally different. You are the prize. Overcoming the cringe. Let's address the elephant in the room. You are afraid of looking stupid. You are afraid that your colleagues will see your posts and roll their eyes. You are afraid that you will shout into the void and get 0 likes. First, realize that 0 engagement is not failure. It is freedom. When nobody is watching, you can experiment. You can find your voice without pressure. The algorithms actually love consistency more than they love viral hits. If you keep showing up, the audience will eventually find you. Second, regarding the cringe. The people who judge you for trying are the people who are stuck in the stands. They are the spectators. The builders, the people you actually want to work with, will respect the effort. They know how hard it is to put yourself out there. Finally, you must detach from the vanity metrics. Do not track views. Views are an ego metric. Track replies and saves. A reply means you sparked a conversation. A save means you provided utility. If one person saves your post, you have added value to the world. That is a win. The idea scratch pad. You might worry that you will run out of things to say. This is impossible if you are living the other chapters of this book. You are journaling, Chapter 2, playing chess, Chapter 3, speaking, Chapter 4, reading, Chapter 5, and building skills, Chapter 6. Your life is a content factory. The problem is not a lack of ideas, it is a lack of capture. You need an idea scratch pad. Keep a note on your phone. Every time you have an interesting thought, or read a good quote, or solve a problem, write it down. Do not judge it, just capture it. When Sunday comes around and you need to write your Tuesday post, open the scratch pad. You will have 30 raw ideas waiting for you. Pick the one that excites you the most. Use a simple template. Headline, grab attention. Hook, state the problem. Payoff, give the solution. From ghost to authority. If you execute this for 6 months, you will transform. You will go from being a ghost, a competent worker who is unknown outside their office, to being an authority. An authority is simply an author who has taken a stand. You will find that your network improves not by networking, but by working. Networking is awkward. It involves small talk and business cards. Publishing is magnetic. It attracts people who care about the same things you care about. You will find your tribe. But there is a catch. You have now set a lot of plates spinning. You have a journal to write, games to play, talks to record, books to read, skills to build, and posts to publish. The initial burst of motivation that got you through this book is going to fade. Life is going to get busy. You will get sick. You will get tired. The entropy of the universe will try to tear your system apart. To keep this machine running for the long haul, to turn these hobbies into a lifestyle rather than a phase, you need one final layer of protection. You need a meta habit that governs all the others. You need a way to practice being consistent even when you don't want to be. You need to learn how to tighten the screws before the engine falls out of the car. Chapter 8, Deliberate Practice. You have likely heard the statistic that it takes 10,000 hours to master a skill. This idea has permeated our culture, convincing millions of people that the secret to greatness is simply punching the clock. If you just show up and do the thing for long enough, The logic goes, you will eventually become an expert. This is a lie. Consider your daily commute. You have probably spent thousands of hours driving a car. You have turned the wheel, pressed the pedals, and navigated traffic for years. By the logic of the 10,000-hour rule, you should be a Formula One driver by now. You should be able to drift around corners and execute perfect maneuvers at high speeds. But you are not a professional driver. In fact, you are likely the same driver today that you were 5 years ago. The reason is simple. You are not practicing. You are commuting. You are in a state of autopilot. You are doing the activity, but you are not stretching your ability. You are repeating what you already know how to do, over and over again. This is not the path to mastery. It is the path to stagnation. To make the hobbies in this book transform your life, you need to distinguish between doing and practicing. Doing is fun. Doing is playing a game of chess, writing a journal entry, or editing a video, but practicing is different. Practicing is the deliberate, often painful act of isolating the thing you are bad at and repeating it until you are not bad at it anymore. This chapter is about the meta hobby that powers all the others. It is the engine of deliberate practice. The myth of intensity. When people decide they want to get better at something, their first instinct is to increase intensity. They decide they will code for 4 hours a day. They will write 5,000 words before breakfast. They rely on a burst of heroic willpower to push them up the mountain. This approach fails because intensity is fragile. Life is noisy. You will get sick. You will have a crisis at work. Your motivation will evaporate. If your system relies on you feeling heroic, your system is broken. Consistency beats intensity every single time. A mediocre plan executed for a year is infinitely better than a perfect plan executed for 2 weeks. We are building a machine that runs on low-grade fuel, not high-octane motivation. We want a system that survives the bad days. Random effort yields random outcomes. If you practice sporadically, your brain never gets the signal that this skill is important enough to rewire your neural pathways. You need a predictable rhythm. You need to show up even when you don't want to, but you don't need to kill yourself when you do. The Goldilocks zone. The core principle of deliberate practice is that skill grows on the edge of ability. If you practice something you can already do perfectly, you are bored. You are just reinforcing your current level. If you practice something that is wildly beyond your current level, you are overwhelmed. You burn out. You need to find the sweet spot. We call this discomfort calibration. You want to be in a zone where you are succeeding about 70 to 85% of the time. If you are solving 100% of your chess puzzles, they are too easy. You are wasting your time. If you are solving 0%, they are too hard. You are destroying your confidence. You must learn to steer this difficulty on purpose. You are the pilot. When a session feels too easy, you must add a constraint to make it harder. When it feels impossible, you must simplify the task to make it accessible. You are constantly turning the dial, looking for that specific friction where growth happens. It should feel like lifting a weight that is just heavy enough to make you shake, but not so heavy that it crushes you. The 3-2-1 protocol. To operationalize this, we use a structure called the 3-2-1 protocol. This is your weekly operating system. It removes the guesswork of what should I do today and replaces it with a clear mandate. The 3 stands for 3 focused sessions per week. You do not need to practice every day. In fact, for deep skill acquisition, recovery is just as important as the work. Your brain needs time to consolidate the patterns you fed it. 3 sessions of 45 minutes are sustainable. You can fit them into a busy life without feeling like a martyr. The 2 stands for 2 metrics. You will track 1 process metric and 1 performance metric. A process metric is something entirely within your control, like minutes spent practicing or reps completed. A performance metric is the result, like puzzles solved correctly or words written. Tracking both keeps you honest. The process metric rewards you for showing up. The performance metric tells you if you are actually improving. The 1 stands for 1 weekly debrief. This is the most critical step. Once a week, usually on Sunday, you look at your metrics. You ask yourself, did I stick to the plan? If not, why? Was the time slot bad? Was I too tired? You adjust the plan for the next week. This loop ensures that you never drift off course for more than 7 days. Hunting the bottleneck. The biggest difference between an amateur and a pro is how they handle mistakes. An amateur hides their mistakes. They play through the song and hope nobody heard the wrong note. A pro hunts for the mistake. They are obsessed with the bottleneck. Deliberate practice is essentially bottleneck hunting. You're looking for the specific sub-skill that is holding you back. In chess, maybe you are great at openings but terrible at endgames. In speaking, maybe your content is good but your voice is monotone. In coding, maybe you can write the logic but you struggle with the syntax. Once you find the bottleneck, you do not just try harder. You design a drill. You isolate that one tiny slice of the skill and you rep it. You don't play the whole game. You play the endgame position 20 times. You don't give the whole speech. You practice the transition sentence until it is smooth as glass. This is not always fun. It is repetitive. It is taxing, but it is effective. By breaking the skill down into its atomic parts and polishing each one, you reassemble a machine that works flawlessly. You celebrate the delta, the difference between how you performed at the start of the session and how you performed at the end. The shape of the session. How do you actually spend those 45 minutes? You need a ritual to get into the zone. Do not just sit down and start grinding. Start with a 3-minute warm-up. This is a signal to your brain that the context has changed. If you are writing, maybe you type a few lines of stream of consciousness. If you are coding, maybe you read a few lines of code you wrote yesterday. This clears the mental RAM and prepares the workspace. Then you enter the focused block. This is 20 to 40 minutes of work. During this time, you are not multitasking. You have one constraint. You are working on one specific drill. Your phone is in the other room. You are in the tunnel. Finally, you end with a 3-minute log. You write down what you did. You write down your metrics. And most importantly, you write down the first step for next time. This is the cliffhanger technique. Ernest Hemingway used to stop writing mid-sentence so that when he sat down the next day, he knew exactly where to start. You will do the same. Leave a problem unsolved. Leave a line of code unfinished. It makes starting the next session frictionless because you don't have to decide what to do. You just have to finish what you started. Plateau intelligence. Eventually, you will hit a wall. You will practice for 3 weeks and see zero progress. Your chess rating will flatline. Your writing will feel stale. This is the plateau. Most people panic at the plateau. They think it means they have reached their genetic limit. They think it means the system is broken. They quit. You will have plateau intelligence. You will understand that a plateau is not a failure. It is a diagnostic signal. It means that your current method of practice has exhausted its utility. Your brain has adapted to the stimulus, and it is no longer growing. When you hit a plateau, do not push harder. Pushing harder on a locked door just exhausts you. You need to change the key. You need to change a variable. Change the tempo. Go faster or slower. Change the tool. Use a pen instead of a keyboard. Change the target. Focus on accuracy instead of speed. By introducing a new variable, you shock the system out of its comfort zone and restart the growth process. Protecting the slot. The greatest threat to your practice is not lack of talent, it is schedule chaos. Life will try to steal your time. Your boss will schedule a late meeting. Your kids will get sick. The dishwasher will break. You must defend your practice slots with the ferocity of a guard dog, but you must also be flexible. If you are overwhelmed, do not cancel the session. Overload is real, but the solution is not abandonment, it is compression. If you cannot do 45 minutes, do 20. If you cannot do 20, do 10. Halve the session length, but keep the cadence. The goal is to protect the habit of showing up. If you miss one session, it is a mistake. If you miss 2, it is the start of a new lazy habit. Never miss twice. The start switch. To make this easier, you need to reduce decision friction. If you have to decide when to practice every day, You will eventually decide later, which means never. Anchor your practice to a specific time and place. I practice at 7 a.m. at the kitchen table. This is a start switch. When the clock hits 7 and you see the table, your body knows what to do. You don't have to negotiate with yourself. Use a 2-minute starter action. Tell yourself you only have to do it for 2 minutes. Anyone can do 2 minutes. Once you start, the friction disappears and you will likely keep going, but you need to trick your brain into crossing the threshold. From mechanic to driver. If you follow the 3-2-1 protocol for 4 weeks, you will feel a shift. The chaos of learning will start to organize itself. You will feel a sense of momentum. You will stop worrying about whether you are good and start getting interested in whether you are better. After 12 weeks, the results will be visible to others. People will notice that you are speaking more clearly. They will see that your code is cleaner. They will ask you how you got so good so fast. You will know the secret. You didn't get lucky. You just stopped commuting and started driving. You now have the complete set of tools. You have the mindset of the one choice. You have the clarity of the journal. You have the strategy of chess. You have the voice of power. You have the inputs of reading. You have the leverage of skill. You have the proof of publishing. And you have the engine of practice to keep it all running. But a pile of high-quality parts is not a car. You can have the best engine, the best wheels, and the best steering wheel, but if they are not bolted together into a cohesive frame, you are not going anywhere. You have learned the separate components of a transformative life, but you have not yet learned how to fuse them into a single, unbreakable identity. There is one final step. It is the difference between having a hobby and having a life. It involves taking everything we have discussed and locking it into a structure that requires zero willpower to maintain. We need to turn the manual transmission into an automatic. We need to design the next 30 days so that success becomes the path of least resistance. Chapter 9. Keep compounding. You are now standing at the most dangerous point of this entire journey. It is the moment right after you finish a book, when the dopamine of learning is still fresh in your veins, but the reality of doing has not yet set in. You feel smarter than you did a few hours ago. You feel capable. You have a map in your hands. But a map is not the territory, and possessing a compass is not the same thing as walking north. Most people will close this book, place it on a shelf, and go back to their lives. They will return to the drift. They will return to the scattered effort, the half-finished projects, and the quiet desperation of potential that never quite turns into kinetic energy. They will treat the strategies we have discussed, journal mastery, chess thinking, speak power, as interesting dinner party trivia rather than survival tools. Do not be one of those people. You have spent the last 8 chapters dismantling the myths of talent and motivation. You now own a system. You understand that you do not need to be a genius to be effective. You just need to be consistent. You understand that you do not need to wait for a lightning strike of inspiration. You need to install a lightning rod and wait for the storm. This final chapter is about fusing these separate tools into a durable way of living. It is about locking the loop so that you stop restarting and start compounding. The architecture of a new life. Let's look at the machine you have built. It is easy to see these hobbies as 7 separate islands, but they are actually a single continent. They are an ecosystem. When you view them together, you see the architecture of a complete operator. You start with the journal. This is your clarity engine. It clears the mental windshield every morning so you aren't driving through the fog of your own anxiety. Then you apply chess thinking. This is your navigation system. It allows you to look down the road, spot the potholes, and calculate the trade-offs before you burn the gas. You use speak power to communicate your route to others, ensuring that you can marshal resources and lead the convoy. You fuel this journey with read to apply, extracting specific tactics from the experiences of others so you don't have to learn everything the hard way. You build a skill to ensure you have something valuable to trade in the marketplace. You publish publicly to create a signal that attracts opportunity, turning your journey into a magnet. And underneath it all, keeping the wheels turning when the road gets rough, is the engine of deliberate practice. This is not a list of chores. It is a lattice. Each part supports the others. Your reading feeds your writing. Your writing clarifies your speaking. Your speaking attracts feedback that sharpens your skill. When you pick one of these and commit to it, you are not just adding a hobby, you are upgrading your entire operating system. The death of mood. The most profound shift that happens when you adopt this lifestyle is that you stop negotiating with yourself. Most people live at the mercy of their mood. If they wake up feeling energized, they work. If they wake up feeling sluggish, they drift. They are passengers in their own bodies. When you install a system, you kill the tyranny of mood. You act without waiting to feel ready. You write your 3 bullet points in your journal, not because you are inspired, but because it is 7 a.m. You do your 15 minutes of chess puzzles not because you feel smart, but because it is Tuesday. This sounds mechanical, but it is actually liberating. It frees you from the exhausting task of deciding every single day whether or not you are going to be productive. The decision is already made. The system protects your progress on your bad days. And because you have a record of showing up, because you have the receipts in your journal and your archive of published work, you begin to trust yourself. Confidence is not a personality trait. It is a byproduct of reliability. You trust yourself because you have watched yourself keep promises. The hidden tax of chaos. We often focus on what this system does for our career, but we rarely talk about what it does for the people around us. There is a hidden tax to being a scattered, reactive person. Your chaos is expensive for your family, your friends, and your colleagues. When you are unreliable, when you communicate poorly, when you are constantly changing direction, you exhaust the people who try to support you. When you commit to a keystone hobby, you stop being a source of entropy and start being a source of stability. Clear speech means fewer misunderstandings and less conflict. Reliable commitments mean your team can build on top of your work without fear of it collapsing. Calm predictability is a love language. This creates positive spillovers. When you level up, the people around you are forced to level up to meet you. Your consistency models a new standard. You will find that your relationships improve not because you are working on them, but because you have become a person who is easier to be in a relationship with. You bring solutions, not problems. You bring clarity, not noise. The leverage of the finisher. As you continue this practice, you will cross a threshold. You will move from the realm of promising to the realm of proof. The world is full of people with potential. It is full of people who talk about what they are going to do. It is starving for people who have done it. By shipping weekly artifacts, whether they are code commits, blog posts, or design projects, you build a portfolio of proof. This changes the leverage you have in every negotiation. You are no longer asking for an opportunity. You are presenting evidence that you are the best person for the opportunity. You will find that you can tackle projects that used to terrify you. Because you have broken down big skills into small, manageable drills, you know that nothing is too complex to be learned. You know that everything is just a series of bottlenecks waiting to be broken. You stop seeing walls and start seeing puzzles. You develop the capability to translate raw effort into tangible assets. The flywheel of ease. The hardest part of this entire process is the beginning. Right now, the idea of maintaining a daily habit feels heavy. It feels like pushing a boulder up a hill. This is because you are fighting the gravity of your old identity. You are fighting the friction of setup. But a strange thing happens if you don't stop. The friction disappears. The habit starts to handle the logistics for you. You don't have to find your pen. It's already on the desk. You don't have to wonder what to practice. The plan is already written. The energy you used to spend on starting can now be spent on quality. This is the flywheel effect. Better inputs lead to better outputs, which lead to better feedback, which leads to better inputs. Your standards rise, but the effort required to meet them falls. You start to compound. Compounding is invisible at first. It looks like nothing is happening. Then suddenly, it looks like an overnight success. But you will know the truth. You will know that the overnight success was actually hundreds of tiny, boring, consistent choices stacked on top of each other. The final protocol. We have arrived at the end of the theory. Now comes the practice. You are not going to try to do everything in this book at once. That's the trap of the amateur. You are going to do the opposite. You are going to pick one. You're going to look at the menu we have explored: journaling, chess, speaking, reading, skill building, publishing, practice, and you're going to choose the one that resonates with you the most, the one that feels like play, the one that solves a problem you have right now. You are going to lock the next 30 days. You are going to write down a one-sentence rule for this hobby. I will write 3 bullet points every morning. I will play 1 rapid game every Tuesday and Thursday. You are going to put it on your calendar. You are going to treat it with the same respect you would treat a doctor's appointment. Do not worry about the other 6 hobbies. They will be there waiting for you. The Keystone Hobby Principle ensures that if you get one of these right, it will pull the others up with it. If you master your journal, you will naturally want to read better inputs. If you build a skill, you will naturally want to publish it. Trust the spillover. The quiet victory. There is a version of you 30 days from now who is different. That version of you stands a little taller, thinks a little clearer, and speaks with a little more weight. That version of you has a track record. That version of you has stopped drifting and started driving. But that version of you does not exist yet. That version of you is waiting for you to make a decision right now. The world is loud, and it wants to keep you distracted. It wants you to click the next link, watch the next video, and buy the next product. It wants you to stay a consumer. It wants you to stay scattered. Rebellion is not shouting in the streets. Rebellion is sitting down in a quiet room, picking one thing, and doing it every single day until you are so good they cannot ignore you. The book ends here. Your work begins now. Pick one.